So what if an AI could look at a picture, not just as one big image, but as a collection of different things it could actually name and describe and even edit, all just by using words? Well, today we're diving into a really cool breakthrough that does just that. It's teaching AI to see the world pixel by perfect pixel using a language it already knows inside and out, words.
Okay, let's just jump right in and see what this thing can actually do. On the right, you've got an AI telling a story about a person on a motorcycle. Pretty standard stuff. But look at the left. That's where the magic is. See how parts of the story are highlighted? Well, each of those highlights matches up with a specific colored outline in the picture. The AI isn't just saying there's a rider, it's showing you exactly where the rider is, right down to the pixels. Same for the bike, the background, everything.
And that leads us to the big question, right? How on earth is this possible? How can an AI connect a word, like rider, to a super specific group of thousands of pixels on a screen? I mean, this has been one of the toughest nuts to crack in artificial intelligence for a long, long time. To really appreciate why this is such a giant leap, we've got to understand the problem that researchers have been banging their heads against for years. It's this pixel-perfect problem that AI has always had.
You know, for the longest time, just getting an AI to say cat when it saw a picture of a cat was a huge deal. But teaching it to understand the cat's left ear or the tip of its tail, that was a whole other ballgame. It meant writing tons of messy, specialized code, and it was just so inefficient.
And this really lays it all out. The old way, over on the left, it was like using a giant, clunky, complicated machine. You needed special models, complex code. It could take hundreds of digital tokens just to describe a single shape. But the new way, the SAMTok way on the right, it's so much simpler it's almost funny. The solution? Just add new words.
So, how did this team from ByteDance and Wuhan University actually pull this off? Well, they didn't just try to fix the old, clunky machine. They threw it out and built something totally new. You could say they taught the AI a brand new language for seeing. Okay, so here's a key idea you gotta get. For an AI, a specific part of an image is called a mask. You can see one here. It's basically a super precise map that says these exact pixels belong to the person and these don't. It's incredibly detailed, but it's also a ton of complex data for an AI to process.
And here is the absolute magic trick. A new model called SAMTok can take that entire complicated map of pixels, that mask, and basically shrink all of that information down into just two special words. That's it.
And this whole process has a name: mask tokenization. It's the engine that's doing all the work. It turns any shape, doesn't matter how weird or complex it is, into a simple two-word name. This means the language model can now understand a visual shape as easily as it understands the word apple.
So how does this all come together into a working system? Well, it builds into this really elegant and powerful loop. It's not just about the AI understanding what it sees, it's about creating a true two-way conversation between the world of pixels and the world of words.
And it works in 3 simple steps. First, it encodes a mask, turning it into a unique digital fingerprint. Then it tokenizes that fingerprint. It looks through its dictionary and finds the 2 special words that are a perfect match. And finally, and this part is key, it can decode. It can take those same 2 words and perfectly rebuild the original mask. It's basically a universal translator between pictures and text.
And this diagram just shows it all beautifully. A normal language model can now use these special mask words to understand a region you point out, or it can generate its own mask words to show you what it's talking about. It's this single, clean interface for both reading and writing these pixel-perfect shapes.
So, what's the big payoff for creating this cool new language? Is it just a neat trick? Not at all. The results are actually a huge boost to the AI skills across the board.
The researchers took this SAMTok system and plugged it into a really powerful vision language model. They trained it on about 5 million images that were all set up with these new mask words. And the model they created, called QwenVL-SAMTok, just started crushing it, getting top-of-the-line, state-of-the-art results on all sorts of difficult visual tests. Okay, let's look at the actual numbers for that conversation task we saw at the very beginning. Look at AP 50. That's basically a score for how accurate the masks are. The SAMTok model jumped from 33.2 all the way up to 38.5. That's a big deal. Now look at side-air. That measures how good the written descriptions are. It went from 49.5 to 55.0. These are not small improvements, folks. The model is way more accurate and it's a much better writer.
But wait, there's another huge benefit here. Because the masks are now just words, it gets way easier to train the AI to be better. You can use a method called reinforcement learning. Think of it like training a dog. You just give the AI a treat, a reward, for getting the right words for a mask. This is so much more efficient than the old way of trying to reward it for getting thousands of different pixels just right.
And you can literally see the difference it makes. On the left, that's the model with just the standard training. On the right, that's the same model after reinforcement learning. Just look at how much better it is at finding all the objects it's supposed to, in this case the glasses on the table, and how much cleaner and more accurate the masks are. It's a night and day difference.
So, what does this all mean for us? Why should we care that an AI can see in words? Well, this whole approach unlocks a completely new and frankly more natural way for us to interact with all our technology.
The researchers who wrote the paper said it perfectly. They called it a scalable, unified, and language-native paradigm. And that phrase, language-native, that's everything. We're finally getting computers to see the world not in their language of pixels, but in a way that makes sense with how we humans actually talk about things.
And this just opens the door to stuff that feels like science fiction. You know, imagine a photo editor where you just say, hey, make that person's shirt blue. Or a robot that knows exactly which screwdriver you're pointing at in a messy toolbox. Or even a medical AI that can highlight the exact cells a doctor is describing in a scan. The possibilities here are just huge.
In the end, what SAMTok does is really profound. It takes a really hard vision problem and it cleverly turns it into a language problem. And since we've gotten so incredibly good at solving language problems with AI, well, that just opens up a whole new universe of things we can do. It really just leaves you with one exciting question. Now that AI can see in words, what are we going to teach it to do next?